Hey, welcome to A Real Authority. Today I'm talking about minions and monsters. I'll try to keep it simple and sweet because honestly, it's a pretty simple movie at the end of the day. And also because it's 4th of July weekend. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. Next week is going to be incredibly busy. Busy, busy, busy. The month of July has not as many releases that would indicate such busyness, but you know what? Personal life is personal life. I literally posted a fireworks video yesterday just to save storage in order to make videos like this, but also I tried making another video that goes beyond the movie reviews, but that didn't exactly work, so yeah. And I've been constantly juggling the fact that I may have to watch Daredevil and Punisher before Spider Man Brand New Day, but everything outside of like AI overview on Google tells me I don't need to, so I may not because that's like more than Mandalorian to watch. I don't know why I'm going all over the place for a movie that I said would probably be simple to talk about, so I guess getting into it. It's basically the third movie in the Minions franchise, and I think seventh overall in the Despicable Me franchise. 4, 5, 6, yeah. Instead of all the minions taking center stage like they usually do, instead we're following two, namely James and Henry, and there's also this third one who, I forget his name, but he's also important somewhat. But instead of it being like the minions teaming up with the biggest bad guy in the room, like say Gru, instead, they find themselves in 1920s Hollywood, in which these two minions decide to make a movie. Namely, one with monsters, and they actually have a book which summons monsters, and so all chaos ensues. As the minions basically try to make their movie, even though they may have unleashed a force that will destroy not only the movie but the world. Gonna be real with you, didn't really have high expectations. It's a Minions movie. Like, Rise of Gru was surprisingly solid, and then it got followed up by Despicable Me 4. Like, Illumination's output is like some highs, a lot of lows. Enough so that I didn't decide to rewatch any of the Despicable Me or Minions movies because they really do not leave that much of an impact outside of making a lot of money. I did have slight hope for Monsters because it did seem like a love letter to 1920s cinema, but I didn't expect anything great. Since I'm a few days late on this, mainly because of the fireworks as well as just general exhaustion. And the reviews were so positive for Minions and Monsters that it was hard to ignore, which I honestly did not believe because Illumination, like the highest rated film prior to Minions and Monsters, was like an 80% for the first Despicable Me movie. Like, I didn't expect cinema out of Minions and Monsters. And obviously, it's because Illumination was making it. And it's also a Minions movie. Like, even Rise of Gru couldn't crack 70, or maybe it's at 70, but it couldn't crack certified fresh. So I wasn't exactly expecting like magnificent cinema out of this movie despite being certified fresh. And I have to say, I'm actually really surprised that animation's kind of making a quality comeback. Like, I'm not saying that the animation output in terms of film has been inconsistent by any means, but I do feel there are some misses, like last year with Smurfs. I feel like this year it definitely has been consistently enjoyable and just stunning to see. Like, Toy Story 5 came out like 2 weeks ago. I wasn't expecting anything magnificent out of that. Why am I using Martin Scorsese terms? I mean, I saw a post where a Minion was actually in the Absolute Cinema pose, so I guess Absolute Cinema. But Minions and Monsters really did surprise me in terms of how it was executed. It doesn't feel like any of the other Minions movies. It doesn't really feel like it's playing it safe for the sake of, well, making a billion. Like, I heard they actually pushed this back. It was supposed to release next year, but because of Shrek 5 delays, which yeah, Shrek 5, they decided to release Minions and Monsters this weekend, and I do feel that somehow, some way, this movie really did feel complete and not like rushed out. Like, it really does feel like something that I don't think the Minions franchise has ever really felt like, or the Despicable Me franchise, because this movie really does keep it concise and sweet. Like, it still has a lot of the minionisms. I guess I'm gonna coin that term. Yeah, minionisms. Let's go. It does have a lot of that, but I do feel with the 1920s setting in Hollywood, like I haven't seen my fair share of 1920s movies outside of like Nosferatu, but this movie does pay tribute to the past instead of feeling like it's stuck in its own bubble in terms of like the Minions franchise. I mean, they have gone back in time before, like the first Minions movie was like, I don't know what time frame, but it was like 90s ish, I don't know, Britain. But this one being set in the 1920s, they took an absolutely huge risk because the 1920s was literally a century ago and the movies weren't exactly, up to the bar that is today's output, but that's intentional because Hollywood was still finding itself. And I do feel that leaves this movie to really allow the minions to kind of blend into the 1920s because obviously, since they weren't exactly the most serious movies, like there weren't any talkies until like 28. And obviously, you got legends like Charlie Chaplin basically making their careers in this time period. It really allows the minions to almost seamlessly blend into the kookiness that is the 1920s in Hollywood. And the plot device that leads into the main adventure, I feel actually did a lot to justify the inclusion of the minions in the 1920s. I'm not going to get into too much detail. I know you probably do not expect spoilers to spoil much about a Minions movie, but I'm going to still keep it vague because I do feel that this is a love letter to 1920s cinema and just cinema in general in a lot of places. Like, I'm not saying it's like a total love fest because you obviously got monsters in here, and I know that a lot of 1920s movies weren't exactly high art in terms of executing like fantastical stuff. Oh, did I also mention it's 100 degrees outside? Yeah, great idea to make a review in these conditions, Real Authority. Regardless, the love letter was definitely very present, especially in the first half. Like, it definitely has a lot of the minions finding their big boss to serve and care for, and then they stumble in Hollywood, and it just feels so organic and seamless to have the minions here. It was just really surprising. Plus, I do feel the minions this time around, like, they're not excessively annoying. Like, you've come to expect annoyance from the minions, and they still have their annoying gags, but I do feel in this kind of circumstance, somehow it just blends in super well, and Pierre Coffin voices all the minions, and obviously, whether you like him or not, you have to admit that he does a solid job in terms of making the minions their own characters and not human characters. And I don't know, I do feel like with the screenplay, which was written by Coffin, as well as Bill Ryan, I do feel the narrative focusing on Henry and James really left the story surprisingly emotional when it really didn't need to be, because minions are usually comedic timing, comedic nonsense. Banana. But I do feel like here, the way they developed the story kind of humanizes the minions in a way which I really didn't expect. Like, seeing these two individuals basically coming together as the rest of the minion tribe kind of doesn't vibe with their ambitions as well as their efforts to make it into Hollywood. Like, I do feel that dynamic, while it doesn't overtake the story, really makes it so that this is a story about friendship above all else instead of like the minions coming together and causing havoc. Like, granted, there is havoc here, but it was a great idea centering the story on these two minions. Like, it's not high art, it's not like the best writing you can possibly get, but you surprisingly get emotionally invested in the minions of all characters. The animation, as expected, is glorious because Illumination, whether you like the movie or not, they usually have solid animation, like even in the previous Minions movies. Like, you've come to expect elegance in terms of the animation, and here, yeah, John Powell's score really harkens back to the 1920s era of Hollywood in terms of like sounding so retro while also implementing like modern music, not like modern songs, even though there are some like decades later songs in here, even though they kind of stray away from like recognizable songs. I don't know, I just feel like in terms of the time period they're tackling, the score really did manage to embody that time period in a pretty effective manner, and I gotta give it to John Powell for absolutely slapping with the soundtrack. And I do feel the first and second halves kind of contrast, not in terms of quality, but in terms of like consistency. I'm not trying to say this as a negative because I was still engaged, but it really is up to the first half to kind of set up the love letter to 1920 cinema, while the second half is kind of, I don't know, going so bombastic. But with the minions blending in so seamlessly into this time period, at least for the movie that they were trying to make, like, it makes it so that the transition from love letter to cinema to we're going to make it big because it's minions, I don't know, I just really did appreciate that transition. It didn't really feel awkward, even though it does feel like they're two separate movies. Like, the Monsters is kind of in the second half, while the first half's kind of Minions as well as 1920s Love Letter. I don't know, it just worked for me because of how well they managed to implement the Minions into this time period. Going in circles? Probably. But ultimately, yeah, I did really enjoy Minions and Monsters. It is by far the best of the Minions movies. I don't know about the Despicable Me franchise. I haven't seen any other movies since they either came out or for like a few years. Whether it's the best Illumination movie or not is up for debate, but I'd probably comfortably say second best. Don't fact check me on that, but it was really a surprise, and I'm honestly very happy that animated movies are hitting as well as they are so far. Like, we may still have a miss, but honestly, the fact that Minions and Monsters is such a delightful surprise and a strong outing for these guys, let alone a good movie, that's honestly a miracle because I didn't really have high expectations for this, and you know what? This absolutely subverted them tenfold. The Real Authority somehow approves 10 out of 10. Whether it's better than Toy Story 5 or not, I don't know, but it's definitely up there. Hopper's still the best animated movie of the year so far, for me at least. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and comment your thoughts on the movie, and let me know what your favorite Illumination movie is. And also, I saw it in 3D, which was really cool, so I would recommend it in 3D too. And happy 4th of July. Hope you have a great one. Alright, peace.